Hi everyone, today we will do some very good problems based on the topic of thermal conduction. This topic belongs to the chapter Thermal Properties of Matter in class 11. Now, before we start solving the questions, as usual, let us discuss briefly the concepts and the formulae in this topic. Previously, in the topic of calorimetry, we learned that when heat flows from hotter body to cooler body, the temperature of the hotter body will decrease and temperature of the cooler body will increase till they have same temperature, isn't it? But now what we want is we want heat to flow from hot body to cold body, but we want to maintain the temperature of those two bodies. So imagine heat is flowing from this part to this part. Let's say this part is at 100 degrees Celsius and this part is at 0 degrees Celsius. Then what we want is we want the flow of heat to be constant. For that to happen, the temperature of this has to be maintained. The temperature of this has to be maintained at 100 degrees Celsius and the temperature of this has to be maintained at 0 degrees Celsius. Now we will learn a very important concept in this topic, which is called steady state. So what is steady state? Let us say I have a conductor, a rod, whose one end is maintained at temperature T1, other end is maintained at temperature T2. And the surrounding is some insulator is put so that no heat goes from the surface, this side and this side. The only way the heat can go is this side. Okay. Now, if you take one small section of this rod, then initially what happens, the temperature of this rod will increase. Why, sir? Because whatever heat comes from here, that will be more than whatever heat will go from here. So imagine 100 joules is coming, 80 joules is going. Then what happened to 20 joules? So 20 joules is absorbed by this section and therefore its temperature will increase because it is absorbing heat. However, as you keep waiting, a time will come when whatever heat comes in per unit time, same heat will go out per unit time. So what will happen after some time? The heat coming in per unit time will equal the heat going out per unit time. Once that happens, what will happen? This section will not absorb any heat because whatever heat comes in, same heat goes out through this section. So therefore, temperature of this section will remain constant in time. When this happens, we say steady state. But do I mean all the sections will be at same temperature? Obviously no. This part will be at more temperature, T1 it is here, right? This part will be at less temperature, T2 it is here. But what do I mean? I mean that temperature from here to here will obviously change. But temperature of any one part, temperature of any one section if you take, that part's temperature will remain constant in time. Constant in time. So therefore, whatever heat comes in through any section, same heat should go out per unit time. Then only the temperature of each part will not change with time. Okay. What is the formula to calculate the rate of flow of heat through the rod? Well, the answer is the rate of flow of heat is given by Q by T, where Q represents the heat energy flowing, T represents the time taken. So when you divide the heat flow by the time taken, that is what we call rate of flow of heat, right? When you move certain distance and divide by time, that is called rate of change of distance. Similarly, when heat flows and you divide by the time it takes, that is called rate of flow of heat. So don't forget to divide by time taken. So the rate of flow of heat is given by this formula. K is a constant which depends on the material of the rod. K depends on the material of the rod, not on the size. So the K is called thermal conductivity, or sometimes we call it coefficient of thermal conductivity. Now what is this A? A is the area of cross section of this rod. L is the length of the rod, and T1 minus T2 is nothing but temperature difference between the end which is at higher temperature and the end which is at lower temperature. So T1 minus T2 represents the temperature difference, right? Also try to remember that this length of the rod is always parallel to the flow of heat. So we know that heat will flow from higher temperature to lower temperature this way, isn't it? So this is the direction of flow of heat, and our length should be parallel to that flow of heat. Remember that. So this L is parallel to the flow of heat, and this A, the area of cross section, is, as you can see, perpendicular to the flow of heat. Okay, so this area is perpendicular to the flow of heat. These insulators here we have kept so that heat doesn't go out from the surface. It only flows this way. Okay. Let's learn to apply the formula in some simple cases. So let's say I give you a disc something like this, and the radius of the disc is r and the thickness is x. One side is maintained at temperature T1, other side is maintained at temperature T2. Then how will we write the formula for rate of flow of heat? So you know that heat will flow this way, right? So the rate of flow of heat Q by T, what was the formula? K A. Now which A I have to choose? This A, right? Because the flow is this way and A should be perpendicular to the flow of heat. So A will be, in this case, pi r square, because it is a circular area, into temperature difference divided by the length. Now here the length is x, because this x you can see is parallel to the flow of heat. So this is how we are going to write the formula for rate of flow of heat for this particular case. What about in this case? So I have given you a block whose length is L, breadth is B, and the width is W. Okay. The opposite faces are kept at temperatures T1, T2, T1 greater than T2, let us assume. Then heat will flow this way from high temperature to low temperature, right? Now how are we going to write the formula? Rate of flow of heat. So the heat flow divided by time taken. Well, first is the thermal conductivity of this material, then A. Now heat is flowing this way, so I have to choose this area, right? Now what will be this area? This is a rectangle, and for rectangle the area is length of this rectangle into breadth. So in this case it will be B times W. Anyone you can say length, the other will be breadth. So here BW will be the area. I hope it is clear, because from here when you see, this will be a rectangle, into temperature difference, remember this is the area, divided by the length. Which length I have to choose? This length, because it is parallel to the flow of heat. So this is how we are going to write the formula for rate of flow of heat if these two faces are kept at different temperature. What if I say not these two faces, but these two faces are kept at different temperature, this face and this face? Then in that case your heat will flow this way. So if heat will flow this way, how will we write the formula for rate of flow of heat this side, when this is at temperature T1 and the lower face is at temperature T2? Then how we are going to write? Well, K area, which area we have to choose? Since heat is flowing this way, we have to choose this area. So now this area would be, this is the length, and here the breadth actually is W, right? So area T1 minus T2 divided by length. Now here the L which we used to write is the one which is parallel to the flow of heat. Which length is parallel to the flow of heat? It's B, right? So we have to write here B, isn't it? Try to do for the front face and the back face. Okay. Now which is more? Obviously this will be more than this, because your B is less, whereas here the length is more. Also here the length is more and the breadth is less. So in this case, because the numerator is more and denominator is less, this rate of flow will be more than this rate of flow, right? Many problems of this topic can be solved easily by comparing the formula of the rate of flow of heat, this one which we have studied, with the rate of flow of charge. And rate of flow of charge is called current, and current in a conductor can be found using Ohm's law, isn't it? Now imagine this is your resistor whose resistance is R, and one end is at higher potential V1, other end is at lower potential V2, and V represents the potential difference. So V1 minus V2 is your potential difference. Now when you maintain this potential difference with the help of battery, in the case of resistor, current flows. Now when I say current flows, the formula for that current is given by potential difference divided by resistance, because Ohm's law we write V equals to IR. Therefore I will be V by R. Now this current is actually what? Rate of flow of charge. So if small q represents charge and t represents time taken, then q by t is your current, rate of flow of charge, which is called current. And on the right hand side, this V actually is potential difference. So it is potential of the positive terminal of the battery minus potential of the negative terminal of the battery. So this is what we write as Ohm's law. Now compare this formula with this formula. On the left hand side, this is your heat, this is your charge, time. This is rate of flow of charge, this is rate of flow of heat. So just like we call rate of flow of charge current, let us call this also current, but we will call this as heat current. What current? Heat current. Heat current. Okay. Similarly, this T1 minus T2 is your temperature difference, which is your V1 minus V2. So that is your temperature difference. And just like we have a resistance R here, here also we will put resistance R. Then what should be this R? Well, this formula can be written this way also, T1 minus T2 divided by L by Ka, isn't it? Already you know something in the denominator of denominator goes in the numerator. So this fellow, this guy can be called as R, which is your resistance. However, to distinguish that resistance from this resistance, we will call this resistance thermal resistance. Thermal resistance. And what is the formula for thermal resistance? L by K times A. So please remember, the formula for thermal resistance is L divided by K times A. So just like we have Ohm's law, I equal to V by R, here also we have Ohm's law, I equals to not potential difference but temperature difference divided by R. Here I is not your electric current, it is your heat current, and R is not your electrical resistance but thermal resistance. Okay. So remember, this formula can be written this way, where I represents your Q by T, which is called heat current, and R is thermal resistance, which is given by L divided by K times area of the cross section. Let's do the first question. This question has come in previous year's NEET exams. It says, consider a compound slab consisting of two different materials having equal thickness and thermal conductivities K and 2K respectively. The equivalent thermal conductivity of the slab. So they want you to calculate the equivalent thermal conductivity. So I am showing here the compound slab having two different materials with thermal conductivities K and 2K. They did not mention anything about the length. So I'll assume the length is same, and even the area, when you see from here, it will look like this, right? So that area I am assuming same for both the combination. Now they are asking you to find equivalent thermal conductivity. If I can find a single rod, so that if I replace these two by this rod should do the same thing. In other words, what I mean is, if you apply some temperature difference and some heat flows here, then if you apply the same temperature difference here, the same heat will flow. Then we say this is equivalent of these two. Okay, so meaning, let me repeat once more, if you apply 100 degrees Celsius here, 0 degrees Celsius here, and suppose 100 joules of heat flows, then if you apply the same temperature here, then 100 joules should flow here also. Then we say this is equivalent rod of these two. Okay, so whatever is the thermal conductivity of this, let me call it K effective. Some people call it effective also, or you can call it equivalent rod. Now the length of this rod will be obviously 2L, right? Because wherever is this 2, you have to replace this by there. So if these two are in some area, you have to replace this in the same area. This area is A, this area will be also A. Now, if you look carefully, this is like two resistors in series, isn't it? And this is your equivalent resistance, right? In school days, you have learnt about equivalent resistance in series and parallel, isn't it? So, if this conductor has resistance R1, this conductor has resistance R2, then this total, let us call it R effective. Then what was the formula that we learned? R effective is equal to R1 plus R2 in series, right? In series, this is the formula. Now, what was the formula for resistance of a rod? It was L divided by Ka, isn't it? So, R1 is resistance of this part of the rod, remember. So, the length is L, thermal conductivity is K, area is A. What about this rod? Length is L only, thermal conductivity is 2K, remember, area is same, A. And this side, what is the effective resistance of this rod, effective rod? So, this will be L. What is the length of this rod? Remember, 2L divided by K. What is the K of this? We have to find. It is K effective, and area of this will be obviously same as this area, right? So, you can see whatever common you can take will cancel. So, if I take from here L by A common, I will get 1 by K plus 1 by 2K, isn't it? Then this L by A and this L by A will cancel. So, I will get 2 by K effective equals here 1 by K plus 1 by 2K. If you take 1 by K common, you will get 1 plus half. 1 plus half will be 3 by 2, isn't it? Then if you take cross multiplication, then your K effective will be 2K into 2 will be 4K divided by 3. What if for the same question the two materials are not in series, but let's say it is in parallel combination, something like this. So, this side is at higher temperature, let's assume this side is at lower temperature. Then how will you find the equivalent thermal conductivity or effective thermal conductivity of this combination? So, what I will do? First of all, I will replace these two rods by one single rod, and since I have to put this in the same place, if this area is A and this area is A, this area will be 2A, isn't it? What if it was A1, A2? Then here you should write A1 plus A2. Obviously, the length will be same, and whatever is the thermal conductivity of this, that is what we are trying to calculate, effective thermal conductivity. Now, remember these two are in parallel. So, in parallel, what was the formula for equivalent resistance? 1 by R effective in parallel is 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2, and you know the R in this case is L divided by Ka. So, for the first one it will be L divided by K into A. For the second one it will be L divided by 2K into A, right? Second rod, area is A only, but thermal conductivity is 2K. And for the last one, R effective will be L, length is same, but now area is 2A into K effective, right? Now, this is in the denominator of denominator, it will go in the numerator. First, you cancel the common things. So, L by A, L by A, L by A is common, you can cancel. So, this 2 effective will go up, 2 effective, and here this K will go up and this 2K will go up. So, your K effective in this case will be 3K divided by 2. What if it was K1, K2? Then the answer in parallel will be K1 plus K2 divided by 2, right? Now, we will do some problems where we need to find temperature of a junction where two or more rods meet. So, let's start with a simple one. So, here we have two rods with thermal conductivity K and 3K. So, the materials are different, length are same, area is also same. The length may be different, but in this case, let us assume the length is same and area is also same. This end is at temperature 100 degrees Celsius. This end is at temperature 0 degrees Celsius. We have to find temperature of the junction. Now how are we going to do that? Well, you can see these two are in series combination. So we can think of this like resistors, something like this, isn't it? So in this case, what happens? Since they are in series, whatever current flows here, same current should flow here also, isn't it? So if I say the heat current here is I1, heat current here is I2, then I must write I1 equal to I2. Now, what is the heat current in this part, or I should say this part? What will be the heat current? Temperature difference between these two ends. What is the temperature difference? 100 minus T, which we need to calculate. So this Tj is the temperature of the junction. So we remember, right? Current is temperature difference divided by thermal resistance, right? So temperature difference of this part is 100 minus Tj divided by resistance of this part, let us write R1. Similarly, heat current in this part will be temperature difference here, that will be Tj minus 0. Remember, current is flowing this way. So this should be higher temperature, this should be lower temperature. So Tj minus 0 divided by resistance of the second rod. Now what was the formula for resistance? Thermal resistance, L by Ka. So this will be 100 minus Tj. Length is L. Thermal conductivity of this rod is K. Area is A. And this will be Tj divided by L divided by thermal conductivity of second rod is 3K. Area is A. Now if the lengths were mentioned different, then write L1, L2. Okay. But here lengths are given same, so write L. So L will cancel, A and K will cancel. These three will go in the numerator. So 100 minus Tj will be equal to 3 times Tj. So minus Tj will go that side. So from here 100 will be equal to 4 Tj. So Tj will be 100 by 4, which is 25 degree Celsius. So this part will be at temperature 25 degree Celsius, right? Let's see the next question. It says 3 rods made of the same material. So same material means K will be same and having same cross section. So area of cross section also same, have been joined as shown in the figure. Each rod is of same length. So length is also same. The left and right ends are kept at 0 degrees Celsius and 90 degrees Celsius respectively. The temperature of the junction of the 3 rods. So here is the diagram. They told each rod has same length, thermal conductivity and area. If these three are same, resistance also will be same, isn't it? So you can imagine each rod has same resistance, right? Now, how the heat current will flow? Remember, we have to find temperature of this junction. Let us call it Tj. So in this part of the rod, this is at higher temperature. So heat current will flow this way, I1. In this part, it will flow this way, I2. And in this part, it will flow this way, I3. Now, whatever total heat current enters here, that total must go this side. Where else it will go? So therefore, I3 must be equal to I1 plus I2. Right? Now, what will be I1? I1 will be, from your Ohm's law, temperature difference of this conductor divided by resistance of this conductor. So temperature difference here is how much? 90 minus Tj. 90 minus Tj divided by resistance is L by Ka, which I am writing as R. Plus heat current in this part will be same, 90 minus Tj, because temperature difference is same, right? Divided by resistance of this also is same. Similarly, heat current here will be what? Temperature difference here is how much? Tj minus 0 divided by resistance of this part, that also they told R. So if you take R common, it will cancel. So you are left with Tj equals to 90 plus 90, 180 minus Tj minus 2 Tj. Then this minus 2 Tj comes this side. You will get 3 Tj equals 180. Tj equals to 180 degree by 3, which will be 60 degree, right? try the next one. It says 3 rods of identical cross-sectional area. So areas are same, made from the same metal. So material is same, matlab K also will be same. Form the sides of an isosceles triangle ABC, right angled at B. The points A and B are maintained at temperatures T and √2T respectively. In steady state, the temperature of the point C is Tc, assuming only heat conduction takes place. Assuming only heat conduction takes place, we have to find Tc divided by T. So here is the diagram. The 3 rods form an isosceles triangle. The end A is at temperature T, it is maintained at temperature T. End B is maintained at temperature √2T. We have to find the temperature of this point Tc in terms of T. They told it is a isosceles triangle and the right angle is at B, remember. So if I say this length is L, this length also will be L because it is isosceles, so two sides should be equal in length. Now if this is L, this is L, this will be what? From Pythagoras theorem, it will be √2 times L. Right? Root over L square plus L square. That will be √2 times L. Now, how are we going to find the temperature of this point in terms of T? Try to understand. If I show you in terms of resistance, then how it will look. Let's say this part of the rod is represented by this resistance. This part of the rod is represented by this resistance and this part is represented by this resistance. Now they told this end and this end are maintained at different temperatures, right? So it is like connecting some battery here, right? And since this is at higher temperature, I am giving positive potential here. So whatever current comes from here, that will divide here and here. But whatever current comes here, the same current has to go here, isn't it? Because this point doesn't have any junction for current to divide. So whatever current comes from here, same current has to go here. That is the main part. So if I assume the heat current here is I1 and heat current here is I2, then I1 must be equal to I2. So this will help us. So let's try to see whether this will give us the right answer or not. How will you find this heat current? This temperature difference, right? What is the temperature difference here? √2T minus temperature of this point Tc divided by resistance of this part. Let us write resistance of this part as RBC equals to I2 is heat current here, right? So heat current, how will you write? Temperature difference. Since current is shown this side, this should be higher temperature, this should be lower temperature. Tc minus T divided by resistance of this part, RAC, or you can say CA. Now, here this will be √2T minus Tc divided by, what is the formula for thermal resistance? L by Ka. So the length of this I have assumed L, and K is the thermal conductivity, A is the area. Here it will be Tc minus T. What about resistance of this part? That will be length. What is the length? √2L divided by, they told the metal is same, so K will be same, area also same. So here what happens? Ka will cancel, L will cancel. So if you cross multiply √2 here, you will get √2 times √2T minus Tc equals to Tc minus T, right? So √2 times √2 will give you 2T minus √2 Tc equal to Tc minus T. Minus T will come this side. 2T and this minus T, when it comes here, it will become plus T. So 2T plus T will be 3T. Minus √2 Tc will go that side. So √2 Tc plus this Tc is already here, right? So 3T equal to √2 plus 1, common will be Tc. So if I want Tc, that will be equal to 3T divided by √2 plus 1. But they asked for ratio. So if I bring this T this side by cross multiplying, what will be Tc divided by T? 3 divided by root 2 plus 1. Let's see the next one. It says in a 10-meter deep lake, the bottom is at a constant temperature of 4 degrees Celsius. The air temperature is constant at minus 4 degrees Celsius. The thermal conductivity of ice is 3 times that of water. Neglecting the expansion of water on freezing, they are asking you to find the maximum thickness of ice. This diagram explains the question. We have a 10-meter deep lake. The bottom is at temperature 4 degrees Celsius and the air temperature outside is minus 4 degrees Celsius, which is constant. Now, see, this is minus 4 degree, the upper part will be ice, right? The ice floats in water and the bottom part will be water. What will be temperature of this part where ice and water coexist? Obviously, their temperature will be 0 degree Celsius, isn't it? They want you to calculate the maximum thickness of this ice. Let us call it x. If this thickness is x and this is 10 meter, the remaining thickness of the water here will be how much? 10 minus x, right? Now, how to solve this problem? Well, in what direction heat will flow? This is higher temperature, this is lower temperature. So heat will flow this way, right? So let's say the heat current in water is I1 and the heat current in ice is I2. Now we know in steady state, whatever is the rate of flow of heat here, which is called heat current, right? The same rate of flow should be here also. That means I can write heat current in water equals heat current in ice. Now, what is the formula for heat current? If you remember the one which I told you, the Ohm's law, then how will I write? Temperature difference for water is how much? 4 minus 0. This is the temperature difference divided by resistance of this part. Let us call it R1 equals the heat current in ice. What is the temperature difference for ice? Remember, 0 degree is more than minus 4 degree. So 0 minus 4 degree divided by resistance of this part, which I will write R2. So this will give you 4 minus 4 will be 4 by R1 and this will be minus will be plus 4 by R2. 4 gets cancelled, so R1 equals R2. Now what was the formula for resistance? Thermal resistance is L by Ka. Remember, L is measured parallel to the flow of heat, right? So heat is flowing this way. So what is the length in the case of this R1 belongs to, remember, water. So what is the resistance for this water? L by Ka. L should be the length parallel to the flow of heat. That length is 10 minus x. So 10 minus x divided by K. Whose K I should use? K of water into area. Now which area we are talking about? This area, right? This is the area A. So let's say this surface area is A because heat is flowing this way, right? So we have to choose the area which is perpendicular to the flow of heat. So this area will be common for this and this, isn't it? So this will be A. So basically A is the area of the surface of the water. What about resistance R2 of this part ice? That will be length. Length in the direction of flow of heat is x divided by thermal conductivity of ice into area. Area will be common. So this A gets cancelled, right? Also they gave you thermal conductivity of ice is 3 times that of water. So I can write here 3 times that of water. So thermal conductivity of water and water here will cancel. So if you cross multiply, you will get 30 minus 3x equal to x, isn't it? Then if you take minus 3x this side, you get 30 equal to 4x. So from here x will be 30 by 4, which is 2 2s are 4, 2 15s are 30, then 2 7.5. So the answer will be 7.5 meter, isn't it? Let's see the next question. It says two rectangular blocks having identical dimensions. Identical dimensions means what? Length and area will be same. Can be arranged in two configuration 1 or configuration 2 as shown in the figure. One of the blocks has thermal conductivity K and the other has 2K like the previous ones. The temperature difference between the ends along the x-axis is the same in both the configuration. So temperature difference is same for both configuration. it takes 9 seconds to transport certain amount of heat from hot end to the cold end in the first configuration. So in the first case, it takes 9 seconds to transport some amount of heat. The time to transport same amount of heat in the second configuration. So they want you to calculate how much time it takes to transport same amount of heat. Remember, same amount of heat in the second configuration. So here are the two configurations. In the first case, the two rods are in series. In the second case, the two rods are in parallel, right? Now, they told the temperature difference here and here are same. So if I write T1, T2 here, here also T1, T2. And whatever heat flows here, the time taken they told 9 seconds. And for same amount of heat to flow here, how much time it will take? That we have to calculate. Now, let us use the formula for heat current. Heat current is what? Temperature difference between the two ends divided by total resistance of these two between these two ends, right? So total resistance, let us write R1. Now heat current, because I want time this time, let us write heat current in terms of heat divided by time, right? I hope all of you remember heat current is not charge by time. Charge by time is called electric current. Heat current is heat flow divided by time taken, right? So I can write this current in this case as heat flow divided by T1. So this is my equation 1. Same thing if I do here, Q is same, time taken is different, temperature difference is same, right? Whatever temperature difference is here, same temperature difference is here. Of course, the resistance in parallel will be different. So R2. Now you can see from here, if I cross multiply, I will get R1 by T1 is equals to T1 minus T2 by Q. Same thing if I do here, R2 by T2 will be T1 minus T2 divided by Q. Now from these two equations, what do we see? This side and this side are equal. So these two also should be equal, isn't it? So I can write R1 by T1 equals R2 by T2. Now I need to find resistance of this configuration and this configuration, right? Now we need to calculate resistance of this combination. Now try to see that these two rods are in series. So what is the resistance of this part? This is the formula for resistance of a single rod, right? So for this single rod, what is the resistance from this formula? L divided by Ka. What is the resistance of this? L divided by 2K into A. Since it is in series, the total resistance will be this resistance plus this resistance, right? So L divided by Ka plus L divided by 2Ka. So here if I take L by Ka common, I will get 1 plus half. 1 plus half will be 3 by 2 L by Ka. So this is the resistance of the first configuration. What about resistance of the second configuration? So here it is in parallel. So 1 by R2 will be 1 by resistance of the first part, L divided by Ka. So resistance should be here, right? So L divided by Ka plus 1 by L divided by 2Ka. So this will be 1 by R2. Ka will go up. So Ka by L plus 2Ka by L. That will be 3Ka by L. That will be 1 by R2. But I want R2. So what will be R2? Take ulta, reciprocal. So L divided by 3Ka. So this is resistance of the second configuration. Put this R1 here, put this R2 here. What will you get? Now 3 by 2 will be here. So 3 by 2 T1 and R2 will have 1 by 3, right? Why I did not write L by Ka, L by Ka? That will cancel when you substitute here, isn't it? On the left hand side L by Ka, on the right hand side L by Ka will cancel. So now they told you T1 in the first case is 9 seconds, right? T1 is 9 seconds, isn't it? So now if you cross multiply, what will be T2? Cross multiply, 3 times 3 is 9, then T2 equals to 2 9 is 18. When you cross multiply with 1, it will be 18. So T2 will be 18 by 9, which will be 2 seconds. So very interesting. If you want the same amount of heat to flow faster. Faster means in less time. It is better to put the rods in parallel or series. Parallel, because in parallel, for same amount of heat, it took how many seconds? Only 2 seconds, right? Let's see a very interesting question. A room is maintained at 0 degrees Celsius by a heater of resistance 20 ohm connected to 200 volt mains. The temperature is uniform throughout the room and the heat is transmitted through a glass window of area 1 meter square and thickness 0.2 centimeter. Calculate the temperature outside. They have given the thermal conductivity of glass in calories, 0.2 calories per meter per second per degree Celsius, and mechanical equivalent of heat is given 4.2 joules per calorie. The last part is just to convert calorie into joules. So this diagram explains the question. So here is a room. There is a resistor in a heater which is connected to a power supply of voltage 200 volt. The resistance is not obviously 20 degrees Celsius, it's 20 ohms, and the inside temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. We need to calculate the outside temperature. Now they told the temperature inside is constant. Why that happens? Because if the heater is producing heat, then the temperature should keep increasing. Well, what happens is in steady state, whatever heat is produced by the heater, the same heat, if it comes out from the glass window, then the temperature will remain constant, isn't it? So whatever heat comes here, if it goes outside, temperature of this part will remain constant. That is the meaning of steady state. So let us first calculate how much heat is produced by the power supply in this resistor. So that you remember Joule's law of heating, right, which we study in class 10 also. So the heat produced is I square RT. However, the current here is not mentioned, the voltage is mentioned. So let us write Ohm's law for current as V by R square into RT. So this will be V square by R into T. T is the time. Next, I want to calculate how much heat comes out through this glass window. Okay. So the heat coming out Q by T, that is your rate of flow of heat, that will be equal to temperature difference between inside and outside. So T inside minus T outside divided by resistance of this glass window, which is L by Ka, isn't it? Now, if I cross multiply this T here, I will get Q equals to Ka. Let me take in the numerator Ka, and this temperature difference, let me write as delta T right now. Delta T divided by L into T. Now, in order for this temperature of the room to be steady, what is important? Whatever heat is produced by this resistor through the power supply, that heat produced should escape from the glass. So this heat must equal this Q in steady state. In steady state, isn't it? So let's equate the two equations. So V square by R will be equal to Ka delta T by L. Now we just need to substitute. So delta T will be equal to, what is the voltage applied? 200 volt. So 200 into 200, right? Square is there. This L is the length of the glass window through which heat comes out. And that length, which is the thickness of the glass window, is given 0.2 centimeter, which I can write 0.2 into 10 power minus 2 meter, because everywhere we are using SI units. So please convert centimeter into meter. So this L is 0.2 into 10 power minus 2 meter divided by R is the resistance of the resistor, not the thermal resistance. This is the resistance of the resistor, which was 20 ohm. Thermal conductivity was given 0.2 calories, but we want to use in SI unit. So convert calories into joules. So 0.2. 1 calorie is 4.2 joules. Everything else will be same only, right? So only thing is calories I converted to joules, because joules is the SI unit of energy. So this will be 2 2s are 4, 2 4s are 8, so 0.84. So K is 0.84 in SI units, and this area is 1 meter square. right? Now simplify this. This 0 and this 0 cancels. This will be 2 tens are 20. So this will give you from here this double 0 and 10 power minus 2 will cancel. So I will get 2 twos will be 4. This 0.1 will give you 1 by 10. That 10 also will cancel, right? 10 into 0.2 you do. 10 into 0.2 will be 2. 2 into 2 will be 4. So 4 divided by 0.84, which is basically 400 by 84, which will be, if I divide by 4, 4 ones are 4, 0, 0, 4 twos are 8, 4 ones are 4. So 100 divided by 21. Let's try this one. 4. 4 ones are 4, 4 twos are 8, 6, 1.0. Then 21, 8s are will be too much, 7s are, 7 ones are 7, 7 twos are 40. Then 3 carry, this will be 1.0. This will be 5, 6, I think, yeah, 6 ones are 6, 6 twos are 12. So the temperature difference finally how much it came out? 4.76. Right? Now what is temperature difference? Temperature of the hotter one minus temperature of the cooler one. Now heat is going from inside the room to outside the room. So obviously the room inside is hotter, the outside is less temperature. So the temperature difference will be T inside minus T outside, which is 4.76. Now inside temperature was given 20 degree. So minus T naught will go this side. So your T naught will be 20 minus 4.76. That will give you 20.00, 4.76. So 4, 2, this will be 5, 1. So the answer will be finally 15.24 degrees Celsius. So this would be the answer for the temperature outside, 15.24 degrees Celsius. Let's see the next question. It says a metal rod AB of length 10x has its one end A in ice at 0 degrees Celsius and the other end B in water at 100 degrees Celsius. So the two ends are at 0 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Celsius. If a point P on the rod is maintained at 400 degrees Celsius, then it is found that equal amounts of water and ice evaporates and melts per unit time. So equal amount of water evaporates and equal amount of ice melts per unit time. The latent heat of evaporation is given 540 calories per gram. Latent heat of melting of ice is given 80 calories per gram. If the point P where they maintained 400 degrees Celsius, remember that point P is at a distance lambda x from the ice end, which was A, they want you to find the value of lambda. So this diagram explains the question. There is a rod whose length is 10x. One end of the rod is in ice, which is at 0 degrees Celsius, and that end they are calling it as A, and the other end is in water at 100 degrees Celsius. This end they are calling B. Now there is a point P which is at a distance from A, lambda x. So distance of this point from here is lambda x, and that point is maintained at 400 degrees Celsius. Okay, we have to calculate the value of this lambda. They also told you that whatever ice melts here, so if I say, let us assume M1 ice melts per unit time, and here M2 amount of water vaporizes per unit time, then they have given M1 by T is equal to M2 by T. So this information is given. Equal amount of equal amount of ice melts and equal amount of water vaporizes. Now, because this end is at higher temperature than both of them, heat will flow this way, right? From higher temperature to lower temperature. So let us say this heat current is I1. So whatever heat comes from here, that will melt your ice because your ice is at 0 degrees Celsius. Similarly, heat will come this way, right? From 400 degree to 100 degree. Let us say the heat current is I2. And that heat that comes will boil the water. Matlab, it will convert the water into steam. Now, What will be this I1? That will be equal to temperature difference, right? Temperature difference of this part. That will be 400 minus 0 divided by resistance between this part. Let us write it as R1. Similarly, heat current here will be what? I2. That will be equal to the temperature difference between this and this. That will be 400 minus 100 divided by resistance of this part. Let us call it R2. Now, let us see what are the resistances. So, for this part R1, which is basically resistance between A and P. What was the formula? L divided by Ka. L of this is lambda x. So L divided by thermal conductivity is same because the material of this rod is same everywhere, right? So lambda x is your L divided by Ka. A is this area of cross section. So that area will be same for everywhere, right? What about resistance R2? That will be resistance of this part, Pb. Formula is L. What is L for this part? That will be 10x minus lambda x. This is 10x, this is lambda x. So this part will be 10x minus lambda x. So 10x minus lambda x divided by K is same, area is same. So that I can substitute here, right? Also, how I can write I1 and I2? I1 is the heat that flows per unit time. Now what that heat does? According to question, that heat will melt some amount of ice. So let us assume M1. Now the heat required to melt ice is mass into latent heat, right? Vaporization or fusion? Obviously fusion because ice is melting per unit time. Similarly, this heat current, how I can write? Heat which goes this side divided by time. Now what this heat does? This heat will boil the water. It will convert some amount of water into steam. So that is M2 and latent heat of vaporization divided by time, isn't it? So now I just need to solve these equations, right? So let us substitute for I1. It is in this equation we will substitute for I1. Okay, what will we get? I1 is M1 latent heat of fusion divided by time. That will be equal to 400 minus 0 is 400. And what is R1? R1 is lambda x divided by K times A. Right? Similarly, what about this equation? This equation will become I2 is your M2LV, which is your latent heat of vaporization divided by time equals to 400 minus 100 is 300 divided by R2. What is R2? 10x minus lambda x. If I take x common, it will be 10 minus lambda. Then x is common divided by Ka. Now, how to solve these equations? Because we have to calculate lambda, remember. So let us divide these two equations. So if I divide these two equations, m1 by t and m2 by t will cancel. Why it will cancel? Because they told equal amount of ice melts and equal amount of water vaporization per unit time. So m1 by t, m2 by t is same, so it will cancel when you divide. Similarly, x by ka will cancel. So here what will you get? Latent heat of fusion by latent heat of vaporization equals 400 by lambda into this 10 minus lambda will go up, right? So 10 minus lambda divided by 300. So I hope you understood. Let me just quickly tell you. I wrote the formula for heat current which goes from 400 degree to 0 degree. Then I wrote the formula for heat current for the heat which goes from 400 degree to 100 degree, right? Using the Ohm's law, temperature difference divided by resistance. Then I wrote resistance formula L by Ka, L by Ka, and this heat current formula is heat by time. Just remember this heat which comes towards ice will melt ice, isn't it? So for melting, what formula we use? Mass into latent heat of fusion. Similarly, the heat which goes towards 100 degree, that will boil your water. So mass of water which boils, which converts into steam into latent heat of vaporization. Then I substituted these values here, and then I just divided the two equations so that the common things will cancel out. Okay. So now, what is the latent heat of fusion? This is fusion. This is given 80, and this is 540, isn't it? Here 0000 cancels, so it will be 4 by 3, 10 minus lambda by lambda. Now we just need to solve this. So 0 cancels. So this will be if I 3 I can cancel, right? 3 and 54. So 3 ones are 3, 2 carry, 3 eights are 24. Then this will be 4 twos are 8. 4 will not cancel, so 2 fours are 8, 2 nines are 18, right? So 2 fours are 8, 2 nines are 18, and this side 4 and 4 will cancel. So what is left? 1 by 9 equals to 10 minus lambda by lambda. Cross multiply, lambda will be equal to here 90 minus 9 lambda. Then minus 9 lambda will come this side. This will give you 10 lambda equal to 90. Double this 0 cancels. So therefore lambda equals to 9. So what is lambda equals to 9? So it is an integer type question where the answer is an integer. Let's see the next question. It says a cylinder of radius capital R made of material of thermal conductivity K1 is surrounded by a cylindrical shell of inner radius capital R and outer radius 2R made of material of thermal conductivity K2. The two ends of the combined system are maintained at two different temperatures. There is no loss of heat across the cylindrical surface and the system is in steady state. The effective thermal conductivity of the system. Effective thermal conductivity also means equivalent thermal conductivity. So this diagram explains the question. You have a cylinder like this, let us assume, of radius R. So this radius is R and thermal conductivity of this is K1. It is surrounded by a cylindrical shell like this they have to. Okay, so like this you have to imagine. So this material is having thermal conductivity K2. The outer radius is given 2R and this inner radius is R. We have to find the effective thermal conductivity. Now what does effective thermal conductivity mean? It basically means if you replace these two cylinder by a single cylinder. If you replace these two cylinder by a single cylinder, so that whatever these two have total resistance together, that total resistance should be same as resistance of this one, then this is called equivalent of these two. So whatever thermal conductivity this has, let us assume it is K effective. Let us write it as Ke. Obviously the radius of this is 2R, the outer part, so this will be also radius will be 2R, isn't it? And here the length is not given, so let me assume L. So again let me tell you, when this rod is called equivalent of these two, when this will have same resistance as these two have together. Okay. Now since I want to write thermal resistance, let me write for radius small r. Otherwise it will create confusion. So I'll write for radius small r and capital R I will use for thermal resistance. Now what do you think? These two rods, this rod and this shell, this cylinder and this outer cylinder, are they in parallel or series? Obviously they are in parallel, right? Parallel means what I told. If you have two rods like this, then it is series. But if you have two rods like this, so that this side has common temperature, this side has common temperature, then we say these two rods are in parallel. So here also they told this side has common temperature and this side is having some other temperature, but it is common for both of them. Okay, so if two rods have same temperature like this and like this here, then we say parallel. Whereas in series, you know, this and this will have different temperature, right? And this will have different temperature, isn't it? Because heat has to flow this way. So this, if heat flows this way, this should be cooler than this one. So temperature of this part will be lesser than this one. Similarly, temperature of this part will be lesser than this one. So the first thing to understand is this combination is similar to this, where this rod and this shell are sharing the same temperature on one side, and these two are also sharing the same temperature T2 on the other side. So therefore these two are in parallel. Now what we will do, we will calculate the individual resistance of these rods. So let's start with the first one. So this R1 belongs to this part. So what will be resistance of this part? L divided by K, which is K1 times area. So this area I have to use, right? So this area will be pi, radius is R, so pi R square. Because if you see from here, it will look a circular area. What about resistance of the outer part, this red color part? So that will have resistance, length is L only, thermal conductivity of outer one is K2. Now area, you have to be careful, don't use this total area because we have to only include this material's resistance, only this material, this part. So this resistance will be how much? This is outer resistance. So how to find the outer resistance? Sorry, how to find the outer area? Subtract the total area from this area. So this total area of the circle will be pi. What is the radius of this big circle? 2r square minus pi, radius of the small circle here, this one, r square. Right? So I hope all of you understood this. So this is the area of the big circle. This is the area of the small circle. If you subtract, you will get area of the red portion, whose area only we have to include because I am writing resistance of only this outer part. Okay. Now this will be equal to how much? L divided by K2. Now this is 4. This is 1. So if you take pi r square common, it will be 4 minus 1. That will be 3 pi r square. Now, one thing we can do, see students, this is L by pi r square. This is also L by pi r square. So why don't we write some letter for this so that writing part will be less. So let me write for this ratio x divided by k1. Then this will be x divided by 3k2. Okay, so what is x here? L by pi r square. Now, what about resistance of this rod? Well, that resistance will be R effective, that will be equal to L divided by K. What is K? K is the K effective into area. This area we have to use for this rod, right? So this area will be how much? Pi into radius square. That will be L divided by K effective 4 pi r square. Now here also we got L divided by pi r square. So I can write that is also as x. So x divided by 4k effective. Now this way why I have done, I hope you understood, because it helps you to solve the problem in a easier way. Now what is the relation between R1, R2 and RE? Because you know these two rods are in parallel combination, the total resistance RE, 1 by RE, should be 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2. Isn't it? So when you put this RE here, remember RE is in the denominator. So when you put this in the denominator, your 4ke will go in the numerator. So 4ke divided by x. Similarly, when you put this R1, x by k1 here, x will be here, k1 will go in the numerator. And R2 is x by 3k2. So x will be here, 3k2 will go up. Now you can see x is here also, here also, here also. So you can take common and x will cancel, right? So 1 by x, if you take common, x will cancel. So what will be your K effective? K1 plus 3k2, K1 plus 3k2 divided by 4. Now the thermal resistance formula that we discussed before was length divided by K into area of cross section through which the heat is flowing. So now question is, can I use this formula to calculate resistance of these two? Obviously no sir. Why we cannot use this formula? Because as I change the length of the rod, as I go from this length to this length to this length, what is happening? The area is changing, right? So this area is smaller. When I come to this section, this area will be more. When I come to this section, this area will be more. When I reach here, the area will be maximum. So since the area is changing as I change the length, it means directly we cannot use this formula. Which area will you use? Isn't it? The area keeps changing. Same thing here also, right? As I move along the length, remember this length is always along the flow of current. So as I move along the flow of heat, you can see the area through which the heat is flowing is increasing, isn't it? When you are here, this is the area, right? This is the area through which the heat is coming out. Then as you go further, this is the area the spherical area through which heat has to come out. So even here the area changes, even here the area changes as we go along the flow of heat. So therefore directly this formula we cannot use. Then what we will do? This is where integration will come to help us. So already I have discussed in detail the concept of integration and the formulae. Please have a watch. I will share the link in the description, and if you have already watched, let me quickly discuss what it says. So as you change x variable, if your y is constant, then to find the product you can just multiply these two, because the area will be a rectangle, right? So this is y, this is x, so you can directly multiply to find the product. However, if your y is changing, if your y changes with x, so as you change x, your y changes, then how to find the product or the area? The idea was, take one very thin rectangle, so thin that for this small dx I can assume the y is constant. Therefore for this small strip I can consider it as a rectangle like here. So I can multiply the length with the breadth dx, and then to find the total area or the total product I will just integrate this small area. So this was the idea that we have used in integration, right? So to find the resistance of this kind of conductor, we cannot directly use this formula as we discussed, because as I change the length, the area changes, right? So from here to here when you go, the area changes. So what we do is, we take a small disc of this conductor whose distance from this end is x. Okay, so x is your variable. So from here to here the distance is x, and the small thickness is dx. Okay, so now let me represent this small disc separately here. So this is your small disc which I am showing separately. Now you can see this dx is so small. This dx is so small that from here to here when I go, I can assume this area is constant. Okay, not when I go from here to here. Obviously the area changes, but when I go from here to here, I can assume the area is constant because dx is very small, right? So how the resistance of this small part of the conductor, this part only, can be written, let us write dr. Why dr? Because it represents a small resistance. So that is equal to length. What is the length of this? Remember, heat is flowing this way, and this L is always parallel to the flow of heat, right? So the dx is the length which is parallel to the flow of heat. So dx divided by k times this area, and this area let us write it as A. Remember, this A varies. This A varies as you go from this part of the rod to this part of the rod. Then to find the total resistance, what we will do? We will integrate dr, isn't it? We know the formula for integral of dx is x. So integral of small resistance will give you the total resistance. So therefore it will be integral dx divided by k times A. So if you can somehow find A in terms of x, then you can do the integration, right? And you have to do the integration from where to where? From this end of the rod till you reach this end of the rod. So your x will start from 0, right? When you are here, your x will be 0, and when you reach here, your x will be how much? The length of the rod. So x will go from 0 to L. So this kind of integration we will see later. Okay. Now let's do a very interesting question where they have given you a spherical hollow conductor, and we have to find the rate of flow of heat because of the temperature difference between the inner surface and the outer surface. So find the rate of flow of heat through a hollow spherical conductor whose inner radius is R1, outer radius is R2. And this material has thermal conductivity K. Inner surface is maintained at temperature T1, outer surface is maintained at temperature T2. So how the heat will flow? Well, the heat will flow from higher temperature to lower temperature, isn't it? So heat will flow this way. So it will flow radially outwards, right? Something like this, isn't it? So we need to find the formula for the rate of flow of heat. Now, What does rate of flow of heat mean? Basically, rate of flow of heat means the heat current. So to find the heat current, I just need to divide the temperature difference by the resistance. So basically the problem is to calculate the thermal resistance of this conductor. So let us try to calculate the thermal resistance of this conductor. Because once I know the thermal resistance, if you divide temperature difference by thermal resistance, you will get the heat current, which is the rate of flow of heat. Can I use this formula to find the thermal resistance of this conductor? No. Why no? Because as I move along the flow of heat, so as I change this L along, remember the L is measured along the flow of heat. So as I move along the flow of heat, the area through which the heat is coming out, that area is increasing, isn't it? Right? So as I go from here to here, here to here, the area is increasing. So since the area is increasing, you will not be able to use directly this formula, right? Obviously, when heat flows through this kind of cylinder, then you know that as you move along the flow of heat, let's say this is temperature T1, this is temperature T2. So as heat flows like this, you can see the area remains same everywhere. So therefore directly we can use this formula. But here as I move along the flow of heat, this area is increasing. So directly we cannot use this formula, right? So if I can't use this formula directly, then how will I find the resistance? So the idea is from here to here, if you go, obviously the area increases. But if I take a very small, thin spherical shell here, okay, it's a sphere actually, but in the board it will look like a circle. So if you take a spherical shell of radius x and whose thickness is only dx, which I am showing separately here, then from here to here, if I go from this part to this part, for this shell or for this thin sphere, I can assume the area is constant, isn't it? From here to here. Obviously, students, from here to here, if you go, the area of the surface through which heat comes out, that area increases. So directly we cannot use. But if you take a small thin shell in this material whose radius is x and thickness is dx, then as heat comes out from here to here, you can assume the area is constant for this shell, right? So for this shell, let us write the resistance. Let us write the resistance as dr. Why dr? Because it is a small resistance, because this is only a small part of this conductor, isn't it? So this resistance, I can use this formula. L is the length through which the heat is coming out, right? And that length along the flow of heat is this length, which is dx. Correct? So this length L is dx. K is the thermal conductivity and A is the area through which heat is coming out. So heat is coming out through this area, right? It is a spherical area. So for spherical area, what is the formula? This area will be 4 pi, radius is x square. So this is the resistance of this thin shell. Once we know the resistance of this thin shell, then what I can do? I can start from this shell, right? Write the resistance. Then I can go to the next shell, write the resistance. Then go to the next shell, then next shell, then next shell, next, this way till I reach this shell. So I will start making shells from here to here to here to here till I reach this outer shell. And since all of them are in series, because same heat is coming out, so since same heat is coming out, all these portions are in series. So the total resistance can be found by doing integration of this small resistance, isn't it? So that will be R equal to integral of dx divided by k 4 pi x square, which is your integration variable x here. And we have to start, remember, from this inner shell till we reach this outer shell. Now when I am here, what will be your x? Remember, your inner radius was given r1, isn't it? So when your shell is here, your x will become how much? R1, right? So your lower limit is R1. And when you reach here, when your shell reaches here, that time the radius is R2, because your x will become R2, isn't it? So this we can easily integrate. Constants you take outside. So the constant is 1 by 4 pi k. Integration of 1 by x square. 1 by x square I can write x power minus 2 dx, right? From R1 to R2. Now this formula is what? Integral of x power n dx is x power n plus 1 divided by n plus 1. Here the power is minus 2. So if this is minus 2, this will be also minus 2. This will be also minus 2. So this will be x power minus 1 divided by minus 1. Isn't it? Minus 2 plus 1 is minus 1. So this will be minus x power minus 1 is 1 by x. So the final result is 1 by 4 pi k minus 1 by x, upper limit R2, lower limit R1. Then what we should do? Put upper limit in place of variable minus put lower limit. So 1 by 4 pi k. Right? Let me rub this part. So put upper limit minus 1 by R2, then minus sign, then put lower limit. So put a bracket with this minus here. So minus 1 by R1. Right? So this minus minus will become plus. So 1 by 4 pi k, isn't it? And this will become minus minus is plus. So 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. So this would be the resistance of the spherical hollow conductor whose inner radius is R1, outer radius is R2. So here you can see a beautiful application of integration, right? Let us now learn about a concept called temperature gradient. So let's say this rod, I keep it in such a way that the hot end is at x equal to 0 and I attach here x-axis, so that as I move along x-axis, my temperature is decreasing because heat is flowing this way. Now, if I take these two sections which are nearby and the coordinate of this is x1, coordinate of this is x2, then since heat is flowing this way, this will be at higher temperature, this will be at lower temperature, isn't it? Now, what will be the change in x when I go from here to here? That I will write as delta x, isn't it? Change in x. So the change in x when I go from here to here will be x2 minus x1. And change in temperature when I go from here to here will be T2 minus T1, right? Now, we know the formula for rate of flow of heat. In steady state, already we have discussed, in steady state, the rate of flow of heat through any section will be same. So whatever heat flows through this section per second, same heat should flow through this per second, right? So the rate of flow of heat is constant. So that will be equal to Ka. Now what we used to write? Higher temperature minus lower temperature. Here higher temperature is T1, lower temperature is T2. And we used to write the length along the flow of heat. The length is this side because I am writing temperature difference for these two portions. So this length will be how much? X2 minus X1. Now, if you want to write in terms of change in temperature, then how I will write this? Ka, let me take minus common, minus outside actually, then I will get T2 minus T1 divided by X2 minus X1. And this can be written minus Ka, and this T2 minus T1 I can write delta T, and X2 minus X1 I can write delta X. And this Q by T, since it is constant, let us give it a symbol I, which we also use for heat current. So the heat current can also be given by this formula. Now this ratio is what is called temperature gradient. So the temperature gradient will be delta T by delta X will be equals to, if you cross multiply, I by minus Ka. Now if you consider this delta X tends to 0, meaning if you consider a very thin section, then this formula can be written as dt by dx is equals to minus I by Ka. So please remember, temperature gradient is given by the formula dt by dx, which is equal to minus I divided by Ka. I is your rate of flow of heat, which is constant. So from here you can check that the temperature gradient is inversely proportional to K. So try to remember that. Temperature gradient is inversely proportional to K. So if I want to know how temperature of the rod varies with this distance x, as I move away from the hot end and I move along the flow of heat. So as I move along the flow of heat, how the temperature varies? Well, this is the formula for rate of change of temperature with distance, isn't it? And we all remember dy by dx represents slope of yx graph, isn't it? Yx graph. So similarly, dt by dx represents slope of temperature versus distance graph. And since the slope is negative constant, because rate of flow of heat is constant, thermal conductivity is constant, area of cross section is constant. So the graph will look like this. Why it is coming like this? Because it is negative and it is constant, so the graph will be a straight line. So this is how the graph will look if you want to plot temperature versus distance graph in steady state. Remember, only in steady state this heat current is constant, right?